everyone. My name is Dr. Janine Craybill. I'm an associate professor of political science at CSU Bakersfield, and I also have the pleasure of directing our pre-law program. I hope that you're doing well. Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the key steps with regards to the law school admissions process and some of the things that you should be thinking about. One thing to keep in mind is that a law degree, a Juris Doctorate, is a very versatile degree. There are many fields that you can work in, from business to criminal law to a host of different types of civil litigation, family law. You can even work in the education sector, nonprofit sector, various issues of compliance. So it is a very versatile degree, and it really does hone in on individuals' critical thinking ability. And so if you're interested in solving problems and even helping people when they're in a time of crisis, or bettering your community in some ways, being a legal advocate, being an attorney is definitely then something you should be seriously entertaining. I would encourage you to take time to think about whether you want to become an attorney or not, or pursue a JD for another type of interest. And make sure that you're trying to expose yourself to the law. At CSUB, we have the Pre-Law Society and the Pre-Law Program, and you can contact myself at jkraybill@csub.edu. That's jkraybill@csub.edu, and I can get you affiliated with our student club that I advise, our Pre-Law Society, or talk to you more about our pre-law program. We have different internship programs, court observer programs, different panels that we host that all really try to expose students to the legal profession so that you start to feel like you're seeing yourself in this profession. You see how attorneys talk, you see how they behave in court, you see the type of issues and the clients that they get to help on a day-to-day basis. And all of that really can help create a soft landing for you when you enter into law school. So those are just some things to keep in mind. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get to the presentation. And so I am going to just go ahead and make sure that right now you can see the full screen. We're actually going to go to the beginning of the slides. So again, we're going to talk today about the basics of the law school admissions process. So again, you're thinking about law school. Congratulations. It's wonderful that you're thinking about your future and wanting to invest beyond your baccalaureate education. So you're thinking about your post-baccalaureate career, your post-bachelor's career. So some things you need to think about, because law schools will want to know this, is, what about the legal field interests you? Perhaps you are really passionate about criminal law, and you want to make sure that those that are criminally accused are ensured their rights. And so you want to become a public defender. Or maybe you are really wanting to make sure that victims of crime get justice, and you want to be a district attorney. Maybe you're interested in finance and tax, and you want to do something with regards to tax law. Maybe you are deeply concerned about our housing crisis and want to become an attorney that works for a local legal aid office and specializes in housing. Maybe you've had a personal situation with regards to family law, and you want to be a person that helps families during a difficult time. It can be custody, dissolution of a marriage, and you're wanting to help them get through that very difficult time. Maybe you want to work in higher education and help and make sure that your institutions are complying with laws with regards to anti-discrimination, making sure that students are afforded their full exercise of rights. Maybe you want to be an attorney for a city and help with city planning, help with different ordinances and policies. The sky really is the limit. Maybe you want to marry some interests together. You really like the entertainment industry, and you think it would be great to be an entertainment lawyer. There's a host of different things that you can do. But when you're writing that personal statement, which we'll get to in just a bit, law schools, and it's a short personal statement and really no more than 2 double-spaced pages, are going to want to know what makes you tick and why are you interested in the law. So make sure that you take some time to discern that. And everyone knows that your interests may change. You may start thinking, you know what, I want to be a criminal defense attorney when you first start law, and then you've taken a couple of classes and you think to yourself, wow, property really fascinates me, and I want to help people with regards to knowing their rights on their property or the buying and selling of property, things of that nature. So you also need to think about, is law school the best path for you? Maybe there are things that you want to do that are related to the law, but you don't have to get a law degree to do them, right? If you want to be an attorney, then you need to get a law degree. But if you want, we need tons of other services in the court system. You want to be a translator. We have many people with a variety of different language needs. Those are advertised through our local court systems and in Superior Court web pages. And they go over all the parameters, the testing, the certification that needs to take place. Maybe you want to be a clerk for the court, not necessarily a research attorney clerk, but a different type of clerk that helps to keep judicial officers organized with regards to scheduling caseloads, the parties appearing before the court. There's also just like any type of office or institution, there's tons of staffing needs in the court. Maybe you want to be a stenographer. There is a shortage of court stenographers. Those tend to be very well-paying jobs. And those are the people that maintain the record of the court, which is so important in terms of, say, a litigant doesn't like the outcome at a trial and they are wanting it to get reviewed at the appellate court. That appellate court's only going to be able to look at the record in terms of seeing if there's any due process violations. And so that's another essential position in our system that help keep the wheels of justice turning. So again, really also sit with yourself and say, you know, what is my best path? Is law school for me? And that's why getting yourself in activities, going to talks where the panelists are attorneys, sitting in court, we have a court observer program, interning, doing different things helps you weed things in, weed things out. You also need to think about the cost of your legal education. Without any scholarships, and if you go to an American bar accredited school, you know, that's going to cost you over $100,000, right? It can cost you up to about 150 or more. So you need to think about that. That's without scholarships. Different merit-based scholarships and other funding can and do exist. So I don't want to scare you, but really looking at the price of tuition and the type of law school you want to go to is really, really important, because you want to find the right fit for you, you know, totally. And that includes the financial component. That being said, it's important to think about what type of a law school you want to go to. Do you want to go to an ABA, an American Bar Accredited Law School, or do you want to go to, like in California, we're one of the states that have a state bar accredited program. ABA hits certain types of marks. They have to have certain types of library, a certain amount of faculty. They have to have certain types of characteristics that make them an ABA law school. The benefit of an ABA law school is that you can sit for the bar more easily in states across the country. A state bar accredited law school, that means I'm thinking about probably just practicing in the state of California. And if you're wanting to practice outside the state of California, you're probably going to have to wait longer and establish residency, possibly work under another attorney for a couple of years. And every state's different with their requirements before you could sit for the bar. So that might look kind of like a negative in some ways, because you just aren't going to have the versatility at first. But it's not impossible. However, state bar accredited law schools are about half the cost of an ABA. So if you know that, you want to go to more regional state accredited law school because this is where you are, this is where you want to practice, they could be very beneficial to you. But if you're wanting more versatility, or there's certain types of firms you want to be able to work at, then you're probably going to want to go to an ABA accredited law school. Now, to some law schools have online and hybrid programs where it's completely synchronous, in terms of you being able to have a live session every session with your professors. There's also correspondence schools. And again, you want to think about that, because depending on where you could practice will be impacted by that choice. But those are things to think about. And location, do I want to be able to practice outside of the state of California? Am I only interested in practicing in my state? Law school is an incredible time commitment. It's an incredible time commitment. If you go to a full-time traditional program, you're not going to be able to work your first year. That'll be stipulated. If you are going to a part-time program, it will not feel like a part-time program. You will feel like, you know, you're working all day and you're in class at night and you're studying on the weekends. And so you really need to think about what works best for you. If you do a part-time program, you have to get your education, your JD done within about 7 years to be able to sit for the bar here in California. And there's strict licensure requirements. There's also very strict attendance components to law school because they have to go by certain state regulations. And so these are all things to think about. Do I have the discipline? Am I, you know, everyone, time is a scarce resource. We each only have so much of it in the day. Am I going to be able to allot my time in a certain way? You know, have I had conversations with my family on how our schedule is going to be impacted for X amount of years? Do I have the right support system? How do I get the right support system? Well, you talk to your professors, you find other peers that are interested in law school, you participate in programs and networking events like we have, and you start to pick up mentors in the community. But these are all part of that resource basket that you want to start assembling. And then again, think about what's driving you. Whatever you do in life, it should be something that that you're passionate about. It should be something that makes you want to keep growing and keep challenging yourself and making you the best person that you can be, not only for yourself, but also because you want to give back to your community, wherever your community is going to be. And so it's really important to think about what specifically is driving you to this vocation. And again, look at several different schools. Talk to the admissions personnel. If you are able to travel to the campus, try to travel during the weekday and ask if you can sit in on a class, because you need to be somewhere where you're going to feel comfortable and supported. Challenged, definitely challenged, you know, and there's not always bad things to feeling uncomfortable. Just on the other side of that, that's where growth and breakthroughs happen. But you want to be able to be in a place where you feel comfortable to be uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Okay, so some of the first steps with regards to the process. So again, you want to get acquainted with the Law School Admissions Council. You want to go to the lsac.org, make a free student account. They will walk you through the entire application process and all the components of the LSAT exam. They also will let you know about different diversity scholarships that they have. They'll also have, sometimes they have like practice exams on there for the LSAT. They also will let you know about the different law school forums that they have. Like, so for example, usually every fall there is one in Los Angeles, and then there's one in San Francisco and in different major cities of the United States. Sometimes being in, you know, as our world is changing, you'll have some of these will be virtual forms, which are good too. But if you do have the opportunity on one of the Saturdays in the fall that they host these, and the calendar is posted on that website, it would be, I would encourage you, it would be worth your time to go to one of these. They have different workshops on financial aid, the application process. They have like a law school fair where there's literally like about 100 or so law schools and representatives there for you to walk around and ask questions, grab some swag, grab some literature about the different schools. What was their last incomings class average LSAT score? What's the demographics of their student body? That may be very important to you. A little bit about their faculty. Do they have certain clinics that you can participate in? Like, so for example, Loyola Marymount, which is an ABA accredited law school in downtown Los Angeles, they're known for their clinic program. Clinic is where you get that hands-on experience of actually being able to work with clients under a licensed attorney when you are a law student. And they have them in a host of things like juvenile law, criminal justice. I've been to some out-of-state law schools like Lewis and Clark, and they also have them with regard, and that's in Oregon, with regards to animal law. So those are other things too for you to keep in mind, and why it's good to go to these fairs. Another thing too is you like I said, after you kind of swim around that LSAT, I'm sorry, the lsac.org website, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you have an account, look at the different things that they have to offer you, and then also start taking that self inventory. Am I more interested in an American bar accredited law school or a state bar? Maybe I want to talk to representatives from both, which I would encourage you to do. Take a free diagnostic LSAT test, because that, even though too, I will say you're going to want to check with each of the schools you're applying to, because some are more increasingly using the GRE now, but you're going to want to ask, that's the graduate writing exam. You're going to, that if people want to go on to masters and PhDs, for example, but you're going to want to make sure that you ask them, do you take one or the other? If they say both, take the one they prefer. Take the one they prefer. The LSAT, I will have to say, it's very good at assessing you at critical thinking skills. And so if they prefer the LSAT, I would prepare to take the LSAT. You could take a free diagnostic online at the Khan Academy. You can create a Law Hub account and do it through the LSAC, and it gives you like a baseline score of where you're at. The exam is scored from 120 points to 180 points, and it has different sections such as analytical reasoning, logic reasoning, and logic games. That tends to be the most challenging component for students. And they also have a reading comprehension and a writing sample. And so you're going to want to make sure you take a diagnostic, because it'll let you know where you are, your strengths and weaknesses on each of those areas. And then you're going to want to think about your timeline in terms of, where are you as you're approaching graduation for your bachelor's degree, and when do you want to apply for law school? So let's just talk about kind of the nuts and bolts of the application process here. So again, you want to look at the different schools. Do you want to stay in California? Do you want to be able to practice outside of California? Do you want to maybe have just a new life experience too, and go to a school outside of California, but make sure it's ABA in the event you want to come back to California and practice? Hopefully you'll consider practicing in Kern County. Kern County is a legal desert. That's where, of course, CSUB is located. So we have more people in need of legal services than we have advocates, than we have attorneys that can help them. And we've had several of our alumni not necessarily go to a closely located law school and return back to Kern County and practice, or those that have gone outside of California and return back here to practice. So again, you're going to want to make sure you look at that. I'd start really trying to narrow down somewhere between 5 to 10 different law schools you want to apply to, and kind of put it in 3 categories: your absolute dream school, what would be kind of the intermediate level after that, and then a couple of safety schools. And you're going to put them in those categories based on what they have to offer, their fit, maybe what kind of scholarships they have, faculty, clinic programs, what is the average GPA of an incoming class, and the average LSAT score of an incoming class. All these things are going to give you a rubric for you to work with. You're also going to look at their applications. Usually they're pretty standard, but sometimes each law school might have a different type of section or a unique question that they want you to answer. Some items about your application will be all the same, like a lot of your bio data and other things like that in terms of name, birth, even some information with regards to your bachelor's degree, GPA, things of that nature. But you do need to fill out a unique application for each school that you're interested in. Sometimes there are application waivers and sometimes there's not in regards to the fee. So you're going to want to contact the school and see if they have that, and how you may or may not be able to qualify for that. You're going to need to pull your official transcripts from every single institution of higher education you have ever attended. So if you took a class at a community college before you came to CSUB, you'd obviously have to pull that. Say though you went to, for example, Bakersfield College, and maybe just one semester you took one class at TAF, you still got to pull that transcript from TAF. It doesn't matter. So, your application won't be complete until they have all of those components. You're also going to want to have 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. These letters, the majority of them should come from your professors that can attest to your academic ability and strengths, and also in an encouraging, positive way where you need to grow. You always want, and then you can have one from like a professional. Maybe you interned for someone, while you were a student, undergrad student, on your path to applying for law school. So you can have a professional one, but 2 should come from faculty, if not all. You want to make sure too that you always give your letter writers plenty of time, several weeks before it is due, that you ask them. You always want to ask, can you write me a favorable letter of recommendation? Can you write me a favorable letter of recommendation? That way there's no surprises, right? Because these are usually confidential. You also want to make sure that you have a well-prepared, clean, organized resume that highlights your education, your skills, your experience. Probably, if you haven't worked on one in a while, see if there's a resume workshop on campus. If you have a mentor in the professional world, have them take a look at it, or have a faculty member take a look at it. Also, your personal statement. This is where you really want to discuss why you want to go to law school. You don't necessarily tell them your whole life story. You only have 2 to 3 pages. These admissions personnel are very busy. They're looking through many, many, many applications. But you also really want to say, maybe there was a particular event in your life, and that is what compelled you to go to law school. And it doesn't always necessarily have to be a tragedy. It could be something positive that happened. I read sample letters of recommendation, or personal statements, or heard stories that people did for personal statements that were pretty unique. Like, for instance, I heard one with regards to a woman. She was a ballerina, so professional dancer, professional ballerina, and her theater company was in a labor dispute with the owner, and her and her fellow ballerinas wanted to unionize so that they could collectively bargain for better wages and working conditions. And that's what compelled her to want to become a lawyer. So, she didn't necessarily say her whole life story. You just are taking, there's this pie or circle, you're taking a sliver out, but that sliver is going to be able to illuminate more things about that circle and who you are and why you want to become an attorney. And it's always good too that you don't want your statement to sound self-serving, just all about yourself. You're what is it that you're wanting to give back in terms of this law degree as well? What benefit are you to their law program and their law school? Those are other things to think about as well. The Credential Assembling Service, you're going to want to establish a CAS account through the law school admissions council. There is a fee usually, and sometimes it varies, but right now it's about $170, $180 to establish this, but you have to have it. It acts as a dossier, kind of a collection place for the documents that in your application that every school is going to get. So even though each school is going to get their own unique application form, every law school is going to get your same 3 letters of recommendation, all of your same transcripts, and they may get your same personal statement, which I would encourage you to do, to keep that personal statement in a way where it could go to any of the law schools. Don't write, about UC Hastings when you mean this personal statement to go to Loyola Marymount, right? The only time I'd really tweak a personal statement to be specific for one law school is if you really, really, really wanted to go there, or they specified that you do that. A couple of other things to really think about is the traditional cycle of the application process. A lot of law schools now have rolling admissions, so you can apply through the early spring, but I always encourage students, if possible, to follow the traditional cycle, because of the fact that in the fall, when they are, getting their first kind of wave of applications, that's when merit-based funding pot for that year, money-wise, is at its fullest and freshest. Law school is still, in terms of funding, highly based on merit, and 2 huge predictors of that are your Lsat score and your GPA. That's why, as you're shopping around for law schools, you need to really look at what was their last class's median, meaning kind of in the middle, or mean average GPA, right? Look at those measures of central tendency. Where was the center of gravity, the middle of their class from the most recent incoming year? What was their LSAT score? Was it 160? Then, if you really want to go to that school, you need to get 160 and above, or maybe slightly under 160. Was it a 158? Then I would try to hit at least that target, or maybe somewhere to like a 161, 163 if you're really wanting to be competitive with that fundraising. Now, law schools do a full file review. If you fall below that mark, it doesn't mean that you're completely out. I'm just saying, if you're wanting to really go for that funding and be competitive, those are things to think about. It's never too early to start to think about law school. You really, though, should start more intently thinking about it your junior year. That's when you should be doing law school and campus visits. You're going to want to research LSAT prep options. Many more are a lot more higher quality online than I would say they used to be pre-pandemic. You can get different packages from Princeton Review, Blueprint, just Kaplan, for example. Those are kind of your major ones, and I would probably stay within those major reputable ones. And now what you can do is you can go on and there's different packages that you can buy, and the more bells and whistles they have, the price will go up. You can, at least as a baseline, probably around $1,000 to start LSAT prep, and then onward. So between that, and you see some around 1,500. Real premier ones can almost get close to $2,000. If you decide to do an online one, I would really pick a package that gives you a lot of tests to take, prep tests to take. Of course, all of them will have a diagnostic, so you have your baseline score. And then I would definitely get a package that has live sessions with an instructor that helps keep you accountable. And it also gives you the opportunity to ask questions. And so those are things for you to think about. There's obviously too in-person prep, depending on where you're located geographically, though, that may be a drive. So the online options, they are increasingly getting better, is my understanding. When I took LSAT prep, I'm not an attorney yet, but I am currently in law school. But when I took the LSAT years ago, I had to do an in-person one. There wasn't an online option. So I would really, really encourage you to do some sort of prep. Your chances of doing better on the LSAT will increase, most likely, if you get yourself enrolled in some prep. And sometimes these different LSAT prep places have different types of discounts, packages. So I would shop around, and really, really take a look at them. You want to make sure that the summer going into your junior year, that's when you're doing your LSAT prep. You want to set a good 3 months, hopefully with as minimal distractions as possible. If you do it in the summer, you're not taking as many classes, maybe your workload's a little lighter. But I would do that, and then I would schedule one of the fall dates. The LSAT is starting to offer more LSAT testing dates throughout the calendar year. They change. So again, you're going to want to make sure that you go on to the law school admissions website and say, okay, like for 2022 through 2023, what are the new testing dates? And the tests are all now, they're not paper and pen, like when myself and others took it. They're going to be done on a tablet. It's a strict testing environment. So that's to preserve academic honesty. So you'll be given a tablet to use to do the test. That's why sometimes too, doing the prep maybe virtually and electronically may help you, just in regards to the comfort level. But usually the start of the first LSATs for the traditional cycle is about November. Then they'll have one in December. You'll see a date or two for January and February. Then later in the spring, one close about June or July, and then it'll follow up again. So what you would want to do in the traditional cycle is start searching, yourself. Why do I want to go to law school? Early on. That's never too late. And be a freshman or sophomore to do that. Start visiting law schools by your junior year. Start looking into LSAT prep that first semester of your junior year, even your second. Get yourself registered and ready to go for that LSAT prep in the summertime. Start talking to your letter writers that last semester of your junior year. And make sure they're all lined up. They can all write favorable ones about you. Remember, that's important on how you phrase it, because you don't want any surprise attacks from a letter writer. Also start thinking about your personal statement. So you could start doing that stuff like the spring through the summer of your junior year. Then come the fall, that's when you start pulling your transcripts, filling out the various applications. Sometimes applications will have like an additional statement they want you to write, depending on the school. Setting up that credential assembly service account, right? So everything goes there. And that way, when you take your LSAT score will also go to that service as well, so that all the schools can access it. Paying attention to the fall admissions deadlines. So those are important things to think about. So the fall of your senior year, you take the LSAT, pulling all those docs for the credential assembly service, lining up. You could even do this before the fall, but definitely within the first 1 or 2 weeks of fall. If you haven't done it the spring of your junior year, the fall of your senior year, lining up those favorable letter writers of recommendation and working on your personal statement. Sometimes students take their personal statement to like 10 different people. That could be a lot of confusing feedback. I would take it to 1 to 2 people at the most to take a look at. Probably a professor, maybe a family member. You want to be erudite and pithy, clear and concise, show good writing, have that absolutely polished, no grammar mistakes. So take it to someone who will be nitpicky. That's okay. That's not afraid to give you some positive criticism. And then acceptance decisions will come out early in that spring if you applied in the fall. If you wait and you finish all this in the early spring during that rolling admission process period, then you won't get your answer till later in the spring. And that can impact wait list. If I would have applied a little earlier, would I have not gotten on a wait list? So those are things to think about too. So that is kind of the overview of the law school admissions process. Congratulations for thinking beyond your bachelor's education and for getting this far in your education. I know it wasn't easy for you. I know coming and listening even to these types of law and graduate school workshops, it's a time commitment. It's something that you're doing in addition to if you have children, family obligations, if you're a caretaker, if you have homework also that in your mind, that you have to get to, or a job, but you made the time today to invest in yourself. And I applaud you for that. You're already on the right track. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you have any questions, we can schedule a time during my office hours to chat. Again, my name is Dr. Janine Craybill, and my email is jkraybill@csub.edu. I am rooting for you. We need more attorneys. We need attorneys from all walks of life to be more representative of our communities and to serve our communities and help people. Many times they're in a real pickle, real pinch, real tough time in their life. And you can utilize your education and your intellect and your passion to better your community through becoming an attorney. So I do hope that you discern this impactful and passionate vocation. And I wish you the best with whatever you do. Take good care. Thank you.